You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's top stories. Lebanese President Michel Aoun holds a ceremony at the presidential palace in Maabda celebrating the country's Flag Day. Prime Minister-designate Saad Hariri says that obstacles hindering the formation of the cabinet will be quashed, expressing relief over the formation of the government. At least 7 children killed by rebel rocket fire that hit a primary school in the government-held west of Aleppo City. Lebanese President Michel Aoun held a ceremony at the presidential palace in Maabda celebrating the country's Flag Day. A scouts group and a musical band from the Lebanese army brought in the enormous flag, 15 meters in height and 10 meters in width, which was placed inside the palace's courtyard. The flag, which was divided into 5 sections representing Lebanon's geographic regions, was filled with signatures from Lebanese people. During his speech, Aoun called on all Lebanese to come to the palace to sign the national flag, which represented unity in the face of division. Flag Day falls on November 21st, one day before Independence Day, as decided by caretaker Telecommunication Minister Boutros Harb, then Minister of National Education, back in 1979. Caretaker Prime Minister Tamam Salam says that he expects the formation of what he describes as a promising government to come to fruition in the coming days. President Michel Aoun was elected in a parliament vote on October 31st, he said, ending more than 2 years of crippling void. Following his election, Saad Hariri was designated as prime minister and has been holding talks with political groups in a bid to form a new government. However, talks which have lasted for 2 weeks now have been hindered by competing demands between political factions over the distribution of ministerial portfolios. Hariri said he aims to form an all-inclusive cabinet by Independence Day, which is in 2 days. Salam also called on the Lebanese people to take part in the upcoming legislative elections set to take place in 2017. So for his part, Prime Minister-designate Saad Hariri says that obstacles hindering the formation of the cabinet will be quashed, expressing relief over the soon formation of the cabinet. What matters, he said, is to put the train on track, and hopefully it will be very soon. The future chief's remarks were made during a meeting with American University of Beirut and St. Joseph University students affiliated to his movement. Some people wonder if he will form a government soon, he said. And he responded that, yes, he is not worried about that. Hariri has been holding talks with political parties in an attempt to reach an agreement on an all-inclusive government of national accord. However, the formation of the government is being delayed by overlapping demands by some political groups, especially over the interior, foreign, finance and defense ministries. At least 7 children were killed by rebel rocket fire that hit a primary school in the government-held west of Aleppo City. State television initially gave a toll of 10 killed, but the official Sana news agency subsequently said 8 people had died, 7 children and a woman. The rocket fire hit a primary school in the Furqan neighborhood, also injuring at least 32 people. The news agency reported additional rebel fire on other parts of West Aleppo, which is regularly targeted by the opposition forces that hold the eastern part of the divided city. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a Britain-based monitor, gave a total of 8 children killed, aged between 6 and 12. The UN Special Envoy to Syria has arrived in Damascus to meet with Foreign Minister Walid al-Maalem amid an intensified government campaign in Aleppo that has left all hospitals in the city's opposition-held districts out of service. UN envoy Staffan de Mistura and al-Maalem are expected to hold a press conference this afternoon. De Mistura warned in an interview with the UK newspaper The Guardian earlier this week that the government was chasing a Pyrrhic victory in Aleppo if the government does not arrive at a political settlement with the opposition. He warned that the military's unrestrained approach would drive more moderate rebels into the ranks of ISIS. The pro-government Al Watan newspaper reported Damascus' displeasure with de Mistura's comments ahead of the meeting. And on to Iraq, where troops advanced against ISIS fighters towards the center of Mosul, but were slowed down by sniper fire and suicide bombings, as well as concern over the safety of civilians in a city that is home to more than 1 million people. A few hundred civilians emerged from rebel-strewn frontline neighborhoods in search of safer ground, including women and children, some of them carrying bags or small suitcases. And searching for homes in areas retaken from ISIS, looking for militants and vehicles rigged with explosive, the troops' mission has become quite difficult, and in those areas they continue to be hit by mortar and sniper fire. Human Rights Watch says that Sunni militiamen fighting alongside the Iraqi military detained and beat 22 men from villages near Mosul and then recruited 10 children from displaced camps in the area to join the fight against ISIS. Coming up next, French polling stations packed as voters flocked to the first round of a primary race. Stay with us, we'll be right back. At least 90 people were killed and 105 injured after an Indian express train derailed in northern Uttar Pradesh from an estimated 60 dead earlier. The death count could rise further as some passengers are believed to be trapped in the wreckage. 14 carriages of the train traveling between the northeastern city of Patna and the central city of Indore were thrown off track in Pucharayan, 65 kilometers south of Kanpur city. German Chancellor Angela Merkel is expected to announce her bid for re-election in a move likely to be welcomed in many capitals as a sign of stability following shock poll triumphs for Brexit and Donald Trump. After months of feverish speculation about her plans, Merkel is due to hold a news conference during a meeting of her conservative Christian Democrats and say she will seek a fourth term in the 2017 elections. Another full four-year term, which pollsters say is likely, would tie the post-war record set by her mentor Helmut Kohl, who presided over the 1989 fall of the Berlin Wall. The head of the German Council on Foreign Relations, Daniela Schwarzer, said Merkel's sense of duty has likely shaped her decision. And on to France, where polling stations were packed as voters flocked to the first round of a primary race to pick the country's conservative presidential hopeful. At the town hall in Paris' 7th district, there was a nonstop flow of people and 20-minute-long queues for people wanting to cast their votes. Former Prime Minister Alain Juppé, a moderate conservative, had appeared firmly on track to win. But over the past week, the contest has been transformed into a nail-biting three-horse race between him, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy, and another former Premier François Fillon. Fillon promises to do away with the 35-hour working week, cut 500,000 public sector jobs, and slash the cost of government. Tough sells in a country where proposals for market-oriented reform often arouse protests. With the French left in disarray under the deeply unpopular President François Hollande, opinion polls suggest that the center-right presidential nominee will meet and defeat, likely, the National Front Eurosceptic anti-immigration leader Marine Le Pen in a runoff for the Élysée Palace next year. President-elect Donald Trump and Vice President-elect Mike Pence spent Saturday meeting with various potential candidates for his soon-to-be-formed cabinet, including retired Marine General James Mattis, who is considered a strong contender for Defense Secretary or another high-ranking job. Trump, who posed often for the cameras but said little most of the day, spoke highly of Mattis as he was leaving the Gulf Resort Clubhouse in Bedminster, New Jersey, where he held his meetings.
Really good.
Mr. Trump, what are your feelings right now of how the process is going?
Really efficiently, very good, tremendous talent. We're seeing tremendous talent. People that, as I say, we will make America great again. These are really great people. These are really, really talented people.
Do you see the cabinet being changed tonight?
Yes, partially. We're doing this again tomorrow.
Is General Mattis going to be Secretary of Defense?
Well, we think he's a great guy. I mean, he is some great man.
So we're hearing is that a maybe?
We'll hear some things tomorrow, I think.
Governor Pence, what are your thoughts, Governor Pence?
Great day.
Does Bridge Street disqualify Governor Christie from being in your cabinet, sir?
We like Chris a lot.
Do you have any reaction to what happened at Hamilton, Mr. Trump? I know you tweeted about it earlier today.
U.S. President Barack Obama told young people in Peru that through democracy, citizens can try something new even when elections have disappointing results. Speaking on the sidelines of the APEC summit, Obama referred to the recent U.S. election that will usher in President Donald Trump, whose protectionist policies threaten free trade options like the Trans-Pacific Partnership known as a TPP, backed by the Obama administration.
and oh, that you.
Hola, Peru!
Of Wildlife Fellows.
Introduce yourself. Democracy means that sometimes you have to compromise. And it means that, you know, the outcomes of elections don't always turn out the way you would hope. And then you know, we're going through that in the United States, and I'm doing everything I can to help facilitate a successful transition with the president-elect in the United States. But as long as we keep our democratic systems open, then the society has a chance to try something new, and then it can make a decision and correct problems that they see in the future, and progress will continue. Where are you from, Luby? The alliance between the United States and Europe through NATO is very strong. And the president-elect, Trump, has already reaffirmed our commitment to NATO. We actually have been asking under my administration for Europe to carry more of the burden of defense spending than they've been doing, because the United States spends a lot more than some of our NATO partners. And they recognize and acknowledge, I think, the need for them to spend more time, more resources on that.
You give to Peruvian students.
There are going to be tensions that arise, probably around trade more than anything else, because the president-elect campaigned on looking at every trade policy and potentially reversing some of those policies. But once they look at how it's working, I think they'll determine that it's actually good both for the United States and our trading partners. Oh, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. Lebanese President Michel Aoun holds a ceremony at the presidential palace in Ba'atta celebrating the country's Flag Day. Prime Minister-designate Saad Hariri says obstacles hindering the formation of the cabinet would be quashed, expressing relief over the soon formation of the government. And at least 7 children killed by rebel rocket fire that hit a primary school in the government-held west of Aleppo city. Those are your headlines for this Sunday. Have a good week ahead and stay safe.